All right. Ways to leave the reader with an impression. So we've already seen a couple. Actually, I think I have these loaded on here. I'm not writing. Discuss the importance of the ideas in the essay. So you've just seen me discuss the importance of the idea of motherhood. Is Secret Life of Bees important? No. I know you're all sitting there, oh, Mr. Clarkson said it's not important. It's not. You know what? There are a billion books out there. And I don't think, okay, don't kill me with religion, but I'm not really sure that any one book is absolutely vitally important and indispensable to every human being. I'll grant the tangent religious question, okay? Let's just push that aside. Let's talk about non-scriptural literature. There's no one book that everybody must need to read. Somebody's going to stand there and say, hey, Huck Finn, you've got to read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn before you leave high school. And I kind of agree with that. Some people would say, you've got to read 1984. And you know, oh, don't groan. Folks, look around your world. You will be lucky that you read 1984. It will provide you perspective on the way that people control you through information that the average American doesn't have. Especially in the internet age, man. Winston and his little memory holes modifying newspapers with the internet, you know how easy that is? Any whack job can do that now. Any idiot can change information. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. The point is that the case, you don't have to read 1984. You don't have to read Huckleberry Finn. You don't have to read The Secret Life of Bees. But you know what's important? Thinking about motherhood. I think every human being needs to consider and understand the value and the limits of motherhood. I think every human being needs to confront the issues of racism that Huck Finn confronts. Do you need to do it through Huck Finn? No. The ideas are vitally important. The novel itself is merely a vehicle for the important ideas. So if you're thinking of Lord of the Flies, and you're thinking of the importance of the ideas, don't think Lord of the Flies. Think evil. Think democracy. Think violence. Think equality. Think of communities. These are important ideas. Golding is exploring something important. So end by discussing those in the way that I ended by discussing mothers in The Secret Life of Bees essay. You could pose a question. I don't often see students do this all that well, but you can try it. I could have ended that mother essay with a question like, what? Aren't all mothers human? Yeah, I could have. That's good point, Alyssa. I could have just rephrased my last statement as a question. Yes. And what's the question? Second, or a rhetorical question is a trick that makes the reader think. It forces the reader to think. Whenever somebody asks you a question, if you're listening, your brain automatically goes into trying to answer mode. Sometimes you give up pretty quickly, but I ask you a question and initially it triggers a response and you're kind of thrown into activity. So that's a way to connect with the reader. Sam told us about this. You could revisit an idea with which you began the essay. So a framing device. And framing devices work really well for persuasive essays. If you began with a little anecdote or a little metaphor, some kind of device to begin your essay that grabbed attention and provided perspective on your issue, you revisit that metaphor. So if I want to, I don't know, give me an issue. Give me a persuasive issue. I'm sorry? No. Give me another one. Rainforest? Okay, the rainforest. I want to talk about the rainforest, and I want to convince people that we should cut down the rainforest. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my difficulty finding parking places. Right? And I'm going to begin with a story about how difficult it is for me to find a parking place. Now I'm constantly late for work because I can never find a parking place. And that's my little story that leads into my persuasion that we should pave the earth. My little story about me having trouble finding a parking place and being docked pay and losing my job is my intro attention-grabbing story. It's a personal anecdote. And then I revisit that personal anecdote in my conclusion paragraph. Throughout, I've presented logical arguments for cutting down the rainforests. But at the end, I end with my personal story with which I began. Now, with literary analysis essay, you're beginning with a summary. Do you want to revisit the boys and their story at the very end of your essay? You could. What does it do? It frames, and that means it provides integration for the whole essay. The essay seems like an intact, intentional, and well-written piece. And if you end having written well, having shown your reader that you can write and communicate well, that leaves an impression on them also. So there are a number of different ways to do this. There's no one way that works for every single essay. And as a writer, you should have a bag of tricks. Stephen King describes a metaphor of this gigantic toolbox that I think his grandfather had when he talks about writing. He says, yes, I as a writer have a toolbox. I have a number of tricks. And I just say, oh, here I need to use this tool, here I need to use this tool, here I need to use this trick. Rhetorical devices, they're tricks. You've seen tricks, you've analyzed them with H.G. Bissinger and other people. You know how people do these. You must master them also. And here are a few. Nick?
So if you do start with your story, then are you letting the first person in the intro?
Yes, however, with this essay, I would advise you not to, because you're starting with the summary, and the summary of the novel shouldn't have anything to do with you. It should have only to do with the novel itself. So, Nick, I don't want you to layer first person and summary and then claim in the intro paragraph. You could do that, but with this one, I'd like to keep it simple. So here I'm telling you, you can end with first person in the way that I did with the motherhood thing. Try not to begin with it, though. You can, though. Your question is correct. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay.